If I could have your attention, please, we'll go ahead and get started now. First off on our agenda is any announcements. I'd like to recognize Annie Sharp, been over there, and Mr. Mike Moore from the Southern Foundation. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Are there any other announcements before we get started? Okay. You have before you the minutes of March 14th, 2019 meeting of the Board of Governors. I entertain a motion to approve. Governor, what's your name? Governor Elliott. Is there a second? Second, Governor Elliott. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Motion carried. Okay, we'll start off with a report from our treasurer, Ms. Heiss.
Thank you and good afternoon. We'll look at the financial statements as of May 31st, 2019. We are 11 months into the fiscal year. First thing we look at is the statement of net position. Oh, sorry. Actually, the first thing we looked at was the cash graph. I apologize. And when I look at that, our cash balance is at $15.4 million, and that's an increase of about $800,000 to $900,000 over the previous year. Now the next statement we look at is the statement of net position, and we have total assets of $169 million. We have liabilities of $99 million, and this gives us a total net position of $69.5 million. And when we talked about cash a little bit, we had our first summer financial aid disbursement this week, and we dispersed a little over $350,000 to about 276 students.
Yeah, I think everything's working. Everything's working.
Okay. The next statement we look at is the comparative statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. We'll look at the difference column. We have total operating revenues that shows an increase of about $825,000. Total operating expenses show an increase of $2.9 million. I did want to note on the compensation line, that does include an extra bi-weekly pay for the month of May in the current year. So we had 3 in the month of May this year, where last year we only had 2. So that is a portion of that. And then some of the other differences in there, of course, we had the across-the-board raise and the TGOE lion's share. When we look at the total non-operating revenues, we show an increase of about $612,000. And as you can see, a big piece of that is the state appropriation one-time funding that we received this year of about $890,000. So for the current year, we show an increase in revenues of about $1.2 million compared to last year of $2.6 million, and that gives us a difference of a decrease of about $1.4 million. The other things that are going on in the treasurer's office, starting on Monday, BJE will be on campus to start their annual audit. We'll start that a little early before the year ends. They will come in and they'll be looking at the student financial aid, and they'll also be doing some financial walkthroughs of that. Always to be on schedule to present at the November board meeting. I'll entertain any questions.
Are there any questions for Linda? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Motion by Governor Plotnick. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Governor Herschelway. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Linda. We'll move on with a report from our Vice President for Business Affairs, Mr. Yust.
Thank you. Do a brief construction report, talking about the residence hall that we're building across the street. They began construction on a new parking lot to replace the parking lot that's currently there. That will be where the new residence hall resides. So we have to replace that first. We continue to have meetings on a weekly basis on the design. We pretty much nailed down the footprint, our interior nickel and dime design, and furniture and fixtures. It'll be about a 4-story facility with 92,000 square feet. That's about it.
How many students will it house?
Right under 300.
305.
305. There you go.
Any questions for Mr. Yust? Any update on the trail?
I knew that was coming. Let's see, no.
No. It's not underwater this week.
We asked them twice in the last week, and I guess they're trying to avoid us a little bit, but we're seeking an update. We'll continue to push them though.
Thanks, Rob. Mr. Bruggeman, report from the athletic department.
In the essence of time, I'll skip a few things, but you can read the sport report as far as the success of the season, particularly in the spring portions of it. I will say one thing, just noting with men's track and field, this is the 5th time in the last 6 years that they've been the #1 finishing team at the national championships as far as from the MIAA. So it's nice to see them performing very well there. We did have our MIAA meetings. Along with that, we have the Hall of Fame. So we did have former women's track and field All-American and a Hall of Famer for us inducted into the MIAA Hall of Fame with Jessica Selby-Tallman. In addition, we had a very unique honor that was given out to Denise Terry. She's an employee of Fresh Ideas. There was an article in the newspaper about it, but she was received the MIAA Mentor of the Year.
Yeah.
And it's the first time it's ever been to really a non-faculty member, but just the impact she makes on our student athletes. She was nominated by us and by our student athletes, and went through the process of selection, and she received that award. And kind of a tribute to the quality of the people that we have here. As kind of a sub-story to that, one of our previous football players who's graduated and actually works in the jail system. She couldn't find a way up there. We're going to give her a ride instead. He volunteered, drove her up there that day, and drove her home that night. And he was obviously graduated 3 years ago. So it's just a great tribute to her and the success of.
And her nickname is?
Mama D.
Mama D.
Yeah, Mama D. So nice article in the paper about that as well. In addition, we had 71 All-MIAA picks this year. We had 22 All-Americans. The GPA for the department was a 3.16. And we had 450 student athletes put forth more than 5,000 hours of community service in the Joplin area. So appreciate all that our student athletes do to be successful in the classroom and the community. Let's see here, a couple more brief things. The NCAA has got new rules coming out regarding basketball. I'm just going to let you know about it now because you're going to hear about it. They're changing the three-point line in men's basketball. They're moving it back another 1.5 foot essentially. That will not go into effect for Division II until the following year. But it will be in effect in Division I this year. So you're going to see 3 lines on our court now because we have high school, the 3-point regular, and then there will be the 3-point further. So, but if you hear talk about that, it's interesting, but it's going to make all sorts of initiatives. This summer we've had 61 scholarships processed for the summer aid, but that does not include football. We have a lot of student athletes here this summer on campus. They're going to class, they're working out, and so if you see them running around, that's what they're doing. So hopefully they're doing it well. Finally, kind of an update on what the future holds. We have 120 valid NLIs, National Letters of Intent, that have been signed this academic year. So that means there's 120 scholarship new student athletes coming to campus. And the signing date ends August 1st. We anticipate we'll still have a few more coming in. And then the last thing, for brevity, I'll just mention that we do have a new staff member joining our department. Rachel used to be kind of the person that would step in when I was not around. We did hire Corey Reed, and she used to work in our department. She was in a role like that prior to, but she is going to be back on campus. She was the athletic director at Neosho High School for 5 years. She was here, went there for 5 years, and now we're fortunate to get her back on the staff. And, so we're looking forward to some leadership there with having her around. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Bruggeman? Thank you, Chair. Dr. Hodson, a report from the Executive Vice President's office.
Good afternoon. You have a copy of my report in your packet. At the top of the first page, you can see a list of the gifts, 10,000 and above, that we've received since the board last met. That's testament to the good work of the fundraising staff that are out identifying prospects and closing gifts. At the bottom of the first page, you can see the annual result of that. We added 118 new members to the Lantern Society, or members who leveraged up to the next level. And that takes place because they're making major gifts to support the institution. So that was an all-time high for new or elevated Lantern Society members. On the top of the second page is a quick peek at enrollment. We track that very closely, obviously, as of today, and I alluded to this in the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. Enrolled hours is just under 1% down from a date-to-date comparison, so we feel really good about that budgetarily. Head count is down just a little below 2%, but it's a long time before Census Day in August. There's lots more Southern welcomes and lots more students to enroll, both new and returning, so we feel very good about enrollment. On the middle of the third page, there's a section called Better Grades. When we converted from Banner to the Razor's Edge database in 2017, the folks at Blackbaud, who own Razor's Edge, were kind enough to give us a data health score. What is the quality of the alumni constituent donor data that we were converting? And they gave us a C- grade. And they've updated that several times, but our most recent grade from Blackbaud is an A-. And that is a testament to, again, the folks, the staff in development and alumni relations that are constantly searching out fresh information about our constituents and updating that. And so we feel like we're in a really good place with our data. And finally, on the back page, at the bottom, you can see that we had 5 new members of the Missouri Southern Foundation Board of Directors elected at their May meeting: Beverly Block, Darren Burr, Perry Davis, Vicki Meisler, and Ronnie Simpson. And then 4 existing directors who were re-elected: Darrell Deal, Ann Sharp, Scott Boudreau, and Joe Newman. So the board continues to grow towards their target of 35 members. This puts us right around 24. It was 14 just not that many years ago, and so they're doing a good job of managed growth on the foundation board.
Are there any questions for Dr. Hodson? Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on with the report from the Provost's office. Today we've got Dr. Craig.
Great, thank you so much. So you've got a rather lengthy report from Academic Affairs, so I'll just hit some highlights. We have a new course that's being introduced, a Lion Co-op experiential course, which is sort of a partner to the Lion Co-op food pantry that we have on campus. And this allows departments across campus to create a course where they're serving the needs of the co-op from a disciplinary perspective. So there are shared learning objectives that must be met no matter who delivers the course, but then each department can create new learning objectives that are discipline specific as well. As part of that, we've included a new component to the required syllabus for all of the courses on campus, and it is a basic needs statement. And this is basically just to inform students about the many resources that we have available to them academically, socially, mental health-wise, just across campus. And that does include addressing food insecurity as well. We have an exciting new certificate in the works. It's a drone certificate, and we have Brian Jones, who is an area retiree. He has a Master's of Science in Aeronautics and Astronautics from Purdue University, and he approached us about putting together a certificate for us where we can certify people to fly drones. FAA has many requirements on that. So he's putting together 3 courses for us, one that focuses on rules and procedures, one that looks at the design and construction, and then the final course is the art, science, and practice of unmanned aircraft systems piloting. So we're really excited about that, and we'll share more with you as that unfolds. But he's on campus. He's got several spaces identified, both indoor and outdoor, that he can use in the event of inclement weather, working with students.
Maybe you can fly one around the boardroom.
Well, if you want.
And record us, yeah.
Race team. We're racing drones, and that's okay.
That's what Dr. Marble would like to see, is some racing. So we'll see what happens. Our research consortium with Kansas City University continues with a summer series. You've got sort of a list of dates and topics on the handout. We have been heavily involved in recruiting new faculty, as we always are. Sort of ramps up in the fall and really heavy in the spring. Right now we have 21 new hires and 3 that are in the works that I anticipate will probably move on this week. So we have 21 new faculty. We'll share more information about them with you at the fall meeting, their credentials and where they're from. We will continue with our lunch and tour of Joplin that we initiated last year, and Brad Belk has graciously agreed to host that tour for us again. It was a big success. We have 17 departing faculty. We have a combination of retirements, resignations, phased retirements, and 2 non-renewals. So 17 of those. And then Dr. Stebbins was kind enough to provide a summary of our international travel for the year. We had 104 students on 9 faculty-led trips, 9 students that were not with faculty, but they connected with our partner institutions. 7 in the spring and 10 this coming fall who will spend a semester abroad. And then we have 2 students studying independently this summer abroad. Total of 122. We also have another exciting new immersive environment which we'd like to focus on for recruiting of faculty and for students. It's a courtroom, and it's going to be in the Anderson Mills Justice Center across the street, and it will create, a realistic environment that students can use to prepare themselves for work. We feel like this will primarily cater to our criminal justice students, of course, social work students who are working as advocates in the court system. We also have our new degree that's rolling out this fall, the International and Political Affairs degrees, our poli-sci and international students. And then, of course, we host the National Association for Mock Trial, resides on our campus, and we have a very strong mock trial team on campus as well. And so we think that we've got lots of different constituents that will make great use of this space. I believe that is everything. There are a couple action items, but they'll be later on in the agenda.
Okay. Are there any questions for Dr. McCray? Thank you so much. Now from the Office for Student Affairs, Mr. Fullerton.
Thank you. You have my report in front of you, but I'll just highlight a few things. That going along with what Dr. McCrane talked about trying to serve our students in a wide variety of ways, we were proud to host a national certification course on behavioral interventions the past few weeks. This course, if we had sent our faculty and staff to this course, it would have been about almost $1,800 to $2,000 per person. Hosting the course, we got 10 of our faculty and staff certified for free. But you can see there were 50 individuals at that course. We had 1 individual from Canada and then individuals from 13 other states across the country. So the exciting thing about that course, years ago when these type of courses first came out, and many of you are similar age to me, this was all threat assessment. We were concerned about active shooters. This course today has changed drastically to try to look at it from the front end. How do you prevent students from getting to that point? And so any type of thing, it really looks at, is a student missing classes? Is a student having financial difficulties? Is a student having food insecurity? And so it was encouraging to see this program change and adapt. I think it will have a significant impact on our campus. Academics were represented by Lorenda Hackett, Dean of the College of Education. We had a variety of folks from across campus that are on our behavioral intervention team, from HR to student affairs, residence life, counseling, and a multitude of other areas. But a great opportunity, and The presenters, as well as the visitors from other campuses across the country, rated Missouri Southern as excellent in all their exit interviews, and so we appreciate their support too. Next on the item there, Missouri Southern, our testing services center did receive recognition from the National Testing Center. This is a 5-year certification, and it's basically taken us almost 5 years to get the certification and jump through the hoops. It's based on the quality of test we give, the quality of staff, the number of tests, professionalism, and a wide variety of other fairly extensive criteria. So we want to give a shout out to the testing center that falls under our Advising Testing and Counseling Center. That was not an easy hurdle, but getting certification is an excellent thing for them. Our Student Success Center will be hosting the inaugural Missouri College Learning Center Association Conference later in July. Not only are we hosting that conference, they were instrumental in setting up this organization in the state of Missouri, and 2 of the staff here at Missouri Southern, Stephanie Hopkins, will serve as vice president for that organization, and Craig Thompson, one of our educational success leaders, will serve as treasurer for that organization, so we're very proud of them. And I'll just point out a couple things on the back of that report that since we didn't meet in May, May is an exciting time, April and May. We have so many student events, academic and non-academic. And so this just highlights some of the non-academic events that were there. And I would want to point out, most of you are aware that we lost Glenn Dolitz recently, previous Vice President of Student Affairs. And I am proud to say that the Dolitz Leadership Awards were established years ago to honor Glenn's service to the university and to our students. And this year we had 51 students recognized as Dolitz leaders. That's the most that we have ever recognized since the start of that program. So I thought that was fitting tribute to him as he passed recently. So with that, I would leave the other items for your review and answer any questions.
Great. Are there any questions for Mr. Fullerton? Looks like you got easy too. Thank you, Darren. Okay, we want to welcome Dr. Rebecca Mauser, the new Faculty Senate President, for your report. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. I want to first apologize that I did not submit a written report yet. I actually just returned from one of the student travel abroad trips to Spain, and mostly Faculty Senate, the last meeting dealt a lot with language about tenure and promotion, clarifying some of that and expectations, and I know that will come up later in the agenda. We also have not quite finished our elections for our board, but we do have our at-large member, who will be Bill Fisher from history, our parliamentarian, who is Jim Lyle from theater. We're waiting on a digital vote to confirm Jean Coulthard for secretary, and we'll be able to announce our full board hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And otherwise, I'm just looking forward to serving next year.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. Mauser? Again, welcome. Looking forward to your reports. Ms. Bennett, Staff Senate President, or
Yes.
Staff? Oh, I can't say
It's
it.
been a pleasure being in the meetings, but this is my last one.
Well
So
done.
as she comes in, I leave. So the things that Staff Senate took care of was we had the first quarter service champ awards, which I had stated in our last meeting. And then we had gift baskets that were given to Eastmoreland High Elementary and Dublin area Catholic schools for fundraiser events. And those went up really well. We don't know how much they got out of them, but anything is better than nothing. But we had some good contributions from Missouri Southern to fill up those baskets and give them for fundraisers. We are currently working with President's Council for the all-employee welcome back in August, working together to try and make sure that all employees are taken care of or have access to listen to the meetings. Sometimes we can't close financial aid or other areas, so we want to make sure that those people are still recognized and still have an opportunity to know what's going on in the welcome back meeting and everything. So still working on how to figure out all the logistics to make sure everyone's included. And then the Angel Tree Project, Bethany Newsom has done a fabulous job over the last few years with that project. She is leaving Missouri Southern, and we do plan to still keep the Angel Tree Project going. And we'll be figuring out who the chair of that person is. However, all of her documents and templates and everything have all been put on SharePoint so that we can go ahead and continue that amazing project. Then reviewing the staff senate bylaws, looking at some of the language that's in it, and some other things. We will bring, I think in July, they're going to review even more into the policy and make a vote before bringing it to President's Council and then having it from there. Preparing for the new year, we had April elections occur. We just had our meeting yesterday, and we had 4 professional seats and 3 classified seats for the staff senate. And yesterday we reviewed all the committees and have figured out who all is going to be on the committees. Things in July are still going to be who's going to be the secretary and who's going to be the parliamentarian. So whenever the new members are in July, we wanted them to be able to have a vote on who is going to be the parliamentarian and the secretary. So that'll happen in July's meeting, which is scheduled for July 10th at 9 a.m. right here in this room. And then I also provided a list of the 2019-2020 members. And the president-elect is going to be Deborah Scow-Smith. And she works in the HR department, and she's amazing. And Melissa is going to do well. And then I noted who the new members are, and Stephanie Hopkins is one of them that you had just mentioned, and then Craig Thompson is already on staff senate. So both of those have been recognized through student affairs, and they're also on staff senate. So that's really it.
All right, are there any questions for Angela? Angela, it's been a pleasure having you this past year. Thank you for your reports and keeping us up to date with what's going on.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, now we have another new member to our board, and that is Student Senate President, although she's not exactly new. She filled in for Jacob a couple of 3 times, right? And that's Ms. Sarah Schultz.
Hello. So I'm going to start with, this past year was really productive for us. We appropriated around $70,000 for different organizations and projects. And one of the projects that's going on right now is actually we partnered with Student Affairs, and that is to redo the Lions Den. Like getting all new furniture. I know that's a place where anyone who comes on a tour, Southern Welcome, everyone goes through the Lions Den. And the furniture right now is a little mismatched. I'm sure you all have seen it. So we're going to completely redo all of that and hopefully get it looking a little more updated. And then also, this past semester we had to make the Senator Day, and we had brownies, and we're also in the Lions Den. We had comment cards so people could give their opinions on changes we could potentially make and enforce, that sort of thing. And it's kind of helpful really seeing like what the students do want and seeing what we can do about that. And then basically just our normal appropriations. Each student organization can get up to $1,000 a semester if they have something going on. So just like dental hygiene, appropriated for like their conferences and stuff like that to help out the clubs and the students being able to pay for things. So that's mainly what we're doing. I'm excited to get this year started and see where everything ends up.
Any questions for Ms. Schultz?
May I make a little comment?
Yes.
Sorry. Student Senate has done a fabulous job on helping with even updating the criminal justice, and we've just went from there, and some of the tables like you guys have gotten other places, we've actually taken some of your ideas and implemented it even further. And you've also helped with the Criminal Justice Student Association trip, and those trips and that help is so tremendous. So we thank you for your efforts and helping with the students.
Thank you guys.
Sarah is on the mock trial team and is my future attorney, so.
And she just returned from Germany.
Germany.
She was on study abroad trip, right? She just told me that before the meeting. Yeah, 2 weeks in Germany and Prague. Okay. And you had a good roommate, I understand.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah, my niece. Yeah. All right. Now let's hear from the committees that met this morning. Governor Franks is not here, and Governor Hirschway filled in his stead, so.
Yes, the Academic Affairs Committee met this morning. We listened to Dr. McGran report on everything going on there, and after that meeting, based on the information she presented, the Academic Affairs Committee has 2 motions to make. The first is the committee would move the full board to approve the Promotion and Tenure Committee's April 9th, 2019 recommendations, which are in your board packet.
We have a motion on the floor from the Academic Affairs Committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Governor Plotnick. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
The second topic this morning were detailed changes to the faculty handbook. Again, Dr. McGrain reported on those, and I'm sure can report now if I think you were all there, or answer any questions if there are any. But the Academic Affairs Committee would ask the full board and move that you approve the proposed faculty handbook changes detailed in proposals 1.4 and 1.6. Again, the specific wording of each of those is in your board packet and was discussed at the meeting this morning.
All right, we have another motion on the floor from the Academic Affairs Committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Governor Haley. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Any other action items from Academic Affairs?
None that I know of, unless Dr.
Just those.
Anything
Thank you.
else? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Governor Hirschman. And next, Governor Haley on behalf of the Budget and Audit Committee.
Yes, Budget and Audit Committee met this morning to cover 2 topics, primarily tuition and the fiscal 20-year budget. And so we had good conversation, discussion, particularly at the state level, and I'm thinking about 3%. I mean, what 3% is. But we do have 2 motions out of the committee that we'd like to put forth to the full board to approve. First is on tuition, and I'll read these all individually. We make a motion to approve fiscal year 20's in-state and line-pride tuition rate at $242.96 per credit hour. The out-of-state tuition rate of $485.92 per credit hour. Distance learning tuition rate, $295.88 per credit hour. The graduate tuition rate of $350 per credit hour, and the dual credit tuition rate of $50 per credit hour.
That's in the form of a motion before the board.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion on the floor before the board. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Governor Elliott. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
The second item in the discussion of the fiscal year 20 budget, we looked at the revenue and expected expenses for the year. And we'd like to authorize the administration to adopt an operate revenue budget of $84.8 million for fiscal year 2020. And so I make that as a motion for the full board to consider as well for the upcoming year.
We have a motion on the floor from the Budget and Audit Committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Governor Plotnick. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Anything else from Budget and Audit?
We will continue to review finances and our cash position ongoing each meeting.
Thank you, Governor Haley. We also had another committee meet, but I'm going to call on Governor Hirschway to give a brief report about that under new business. So that brings us to
Dr. Marlowe.
Thank you, Governor. As usual, start off with the state budget. But this year, unlike last few years, we did receive some new money, so that's a good start. The MOAC sales proposals that were submitted by the department were approved. We have an award of $188,000 in there for our environmental health and safety program, taking it statewide, so we'll be ramping up that program. House Bill 3 also included $1 million for each university in the state, which in our case kind of replaces the $1 million that Senator Brown put in last year, so we got there a year ahead of time, which was a good thing. And thanks to the work of our local delegation, especially House Budget Chair Cody Smith. If you get a chance, please tell him how much we appreciate it. We received a one-time appropriation of $1.8 million minus the 3% that Governor Haley referenced, which is the 3% governor's withholding that happens on every dollar that we receive from state appropriations. It supports our STEM programs. Also, we should note that we're grateful to Senator Hagerman in the Senate side for helping us out, and of course, reliable Bill White for pushing the table. And Governor Parson, frankly, for returning to an appreciation of education and putting money to work. And not only in higher ed, but this year the K-12 system their formula will be fully funded. So I think it's a very encouraging sign. Another thing that I wanted to talk about most, I guess, is the Higher Learning Commission and our HLC accreditation reaffirmation that we've been working on for
Ever.
And as you know, in February, the site visit team visited campus. Some of you are involved with those meetings. We did receive, as you'll see in the letter you should have with you, that we got a full 10-year reaffirmation with no interim monitoring. So it's as good as we could pray for. They also notified us, I guess, today that the open pathways we requested has been approved. So it's as good as we could have ever hoped for at all. But there are a couple things I think that I'd like to point out in this. I want you, if you have time, take it home and read the report of the visiting team, because it really is very complimentary. But our mission now, as we went through the work of the strategic plan, it really focuses on education and graduation of knowledgeable, responsible global citizens. So it's important for us that we measure that. And in the report, the reviewer said it is interesting and commendable, which is rare to hear a word commendable from a site team, but it is interesting and commendable that the curriculum approval process requires a comprehensive assessment plan of student learning. And that is a credit to our faculty. They do a great job of keeping an eye on quality, and so they're to be commended. Regarding strategic planning, they did recognize we engage in ongoing strategic planning and budgeting process, and then we went through a reimagining, I like that word, a process to reimagine the university's mission documents, mission, vision, values last year. I recognized all that, and that it was an inclusive process. It said, for example, the head of the physical plant reported meeting all the physical plant staff to contribute to the development of the mission documents, and he thought he could identify specific wording that they had suggested in the meeting. Shared governance, in large part, this is a quote, in large part, much of the positive movement and recent accomplishments on campus can be traced to the implementation of the university's quality initiative, the development of the Great Game Education, the GGOE. In virtually every meeting on campus, attendees refer to the GGOE as the driving force behind decisions and accomplishments. So that is a great compliment, I think, to the effort that the whole campus put out. It's certainly a team effort, but in conclusion, they wrote, this is the common theme of transparency and shared governance for the future of the institution was especially clear in the team interactions with faculty and staff members. And the institution should take collective pride in the success of this new model of governance and planning. The experience of the team indicate that a significant culture shift has taken place. So I think that everyone on this campus should be very, very proud of that, of what they contributed. And it was a team effort, but I would be remiss if I didn't point out the extra effort that Dr. Carson, Dr. McGrain, who's here with us today, and the Culture Committee put in. They worked countless hours to get us to this point. I think they deserve a round of applause. So I just mentioned a little bit, you can read about the GGOE. There's going to be some changes coming. They're working on planning some new directions as we change our focus from the metrics of financial to academic. So the fall's going to be exciting. That's all.
It's a great report. Any questions of Dr. Marble? All right. Thank you again. I wish I had something to add to that, but there's nothing I can add to that to make it sound any better than it already is. All right, that brings us to, is there any other old business to be brought before the board? All right, that brings us to new business. And I'm going to mix up the agenda just a little bit because Dr. Charlotte has been back there so patient for the last, almost hour now. And I'm going to move him ahead on the agenda for a report on this thing. It says Carnegie Hall. Yeah.
Well, thank you. You did me well, so that's all good. When Dr. Marble asked me to present last week, I was a little like, I wasn't quite sure what I would say. And so as the week kind of went along, I thought of some things and brought a couple of props and going to share a couple of pictures with you of our experience. I'll start off by saying that I was asked, I think it was probably a couple of years ago, by Peter Taboris, who is the executive director and owner of Mid-American Productions in New York City. And he approached me and asked me if I would be willing to conduct an ensemble made up of some of our people, but then also some groups around the nation, and asked me if I would be willing to do that. And of course I was like, yes, I would be delighted. I got to know Peter back actually when I was probably a junior, I think it was, in college at Friends University, and had the opportunity to go there. It was right when he was beginning the company, and I went there with my college choir and sang, not in Carnegie Hall, we sang in Avery Fisher Hall, which is in Lincoln Center. And I will never forget that experience. We sang the Beethoven Ninth, and we had a serenade to music, and it was a wonderful experience. And then during that time, not as a conductor, I brought some groups for another conductor to work with, high school and then a community group. And so this time being asked to be one of the conductors was a sure delight. And so since that time, we've been working and finally decided on the repertoire and all of that stuff. And last week this became a reality. That's the group there. We just got off the plane in LaGuardia, and we're eager, but we're tired. We almost literally missed our flight, not because of us, but because of American. We walked off the plane in Dallas and literally turned the circle and walked right onto another plane. They held it for us, so we were very fortunate to have that. And then we began rehearsing, and I shared the work with a wonderful colleague that I am so glad I have become acquainted with, Tom Jager, who is his credits being accompanist at the Curtis Institute. He also was Met audition accompanist and is now director of the opera program down at Rice University and also the Houston Masterworks. And so he's been in the business probably about 20 years longer than I have. And so to learn from him was amazing. But anyway, we shared the rehearsals and we shared choirs. And we had about 105. I can tell you they sounded like there were about 250 of them. It was wonderful voices in that group. We had some people who came and visited us. Dr. Diana Allen and her husband Don traveled all the way there. And then our accompanist Glenda Austin was our accompanist for the rehearsals, and her husband David were there to be with us. Also Jim Dawson and his family were able to come and join us. I didn't get a picture of them. They were only there for the concert, and then they whisked us off on the buses, so I didn't get a chance to do that. And then we had some other guests. You might remember Dr. Jeff McComber, who was, of course, a former professor in the music department, also chair, and his wife Kathy, retired now in Minneapolis, came. And then my kids, two of my kids, and then my daughter's husband Joe. So Michaela and Christopher and Joe came, and my girlfriend was able to come, so I was very happy about that. While we were there, now you're probably wondering, who the world is that? We saw somebody famous. We were walking out out of dinner that night and came across, they were having the Tony Awards, and Warren Beatty walked by. My kids are like, who is that? So I'm like, well, he's famous. But anyway, I had to show you that picture there because that was my highlight of seeing somebody really famous. For some reason, the jean jackets were in, so I had some pictures there with Pete Seeger and, of course, the man himself, Frank Sinatra, in the back there in the rehearsing room there. We had some, this is during our rehearsal, we actually had Aaron Michaels, who's a graduate, I think, in 11, right? He and his wife live in New York City, and so they took several wonderful pictures of our rehearsal. I can tell you that's an amazing space, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But got some really, really nice pictures of, oh, here's that one there in action. You can kind of see the people there a little bit, and then of course a wonderful shot from the back. Incidentally, Carnegie Hall opened up with their inaugural concert in 1891, and it was money given by Andrew Carnegie, of course, who funded it, and Walter Damrosch, who was the first conductor of the New York Phil. They became friends, and he wanted a place where they could have a wonderful venue to perform in New York City, and of course this is the result of that. At that first concert, there were several people who were there, but of course one of the notables were the Rockefellers, who were at that first performance. And since then, of course, countless others. Leonard Bernstein, of course, gave his at 25. Walter Bruno was the conductor, or Bruno Walter. Sorry, I'm thinking of the guy today, his name, Walter. Anyway, he was sick, and at 25, Bernstein stepped up to the plate to conduct the New York Phil, and of course the rest is history, right, with him. And countless others have performed there, including some wonderful people like Carole King has performed there, and so it's a wonderful show stage. There we are on our way to, my son decided he was going to rent one of those big black vans or SUVs, and so we could arrive in style, and so we arose in style, and then that's right before the performance. Of course, there's the wonderful Carnegie Hall itself. And that's right before, I'm not entire yet, but that's right before we went on. And we had a wonderful meeting room there. And we also had groups from, we had Purdy High School join us, and they were fantastic. Those high school students, made some great connections with them. And then we had, that's all of our group, all of our community members, and college singers. We had 25 college students go, and we had 15 community members go. We were able to raise enough money to give each of the students about $700 each towards the trip, and then I was able to give them another $100 surprise money before we left, so they could have a little bit of spending money while we're there, and that was all by donations. Oh my. The Maestro Suite. So, you know, I was pretty excited about this because, you know, people like Bernstein were there, and I just had to get a picture of me and Bernstein, one of my favorite conductors. And this is after the performance. We do have some pictures I know that were taken by Carnegie Hall that will be sent to me. We will also have a recording that will be sent to me. But these are some illegal photos by some of our fans. This is right before we went out. And then I will just, quickly just share this. You want to pass it around. I know it's pretty fast, so. And then I received this wonderful plaque by the, I don't know, the best way to do is just send it around, by the executive director, Peter Torres, for the presentation. There's my friend Tom Jaber. Right after the performance, we had such a great time. I can tell you that, first of all, when I've been so busy this semester that I didn't have time to really soak in exactly what was happening. I mean, I was excited, and of course I knew that it was what it was, but I think where it really hit me probably was right when I walked out on stage for the, at the beginning, and to just hear that applause and to feel sort of the energy of all the people who performed on that stage was just amazing. The choir was fantastic. They told us that they've had the Requiem done a few times before. They told us that this was probably the best performance of the Requiem that they had had. And I will say truly, we were very, very impressed with the singing. It was fantastic. The orchestra was wonderful. We had we had a rehearsal with the orchestra, and you're on union time when you're working with those orchestras, and so it's like you get 40 minutes. You better get everything you need to get done in 40 minutes because they'll get up and walk out once 40 minutes is done. In Carnegie Hall, you don't move a thing. Everything is unionized, and so if you want a chair moved, you don't move the chair. You ask somebody from Carnegie Hall to move the chair, and that's just kind of interesting, the nostalgia of it all. But the students had a fantastic time. They were truly mesmerized. They were 100% responsible. We had no problems. They were on time. I always tell them, I said, know your limitations. And I said, make sure that you are 100% for every rehearsal and the performance, and they were. And so they were wonderful. And the community members were extremely happy to be with us, had a great time. And then them talking with the other groups, they just shared how much they enjoyed working with both Tom and I. So it was really a fantastic moment, one that I will never forget, to be on that stage and to represent Missouri Southern. It was just fantastic. And so I'm happy to share those things with you. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but that's sort of my brief 10-minute synopsis of our trip.
So couldn't be more proud, David.
Yeah, yes, great job. So I mean, you do it again if they ask?
I would absolutely do it again if they asked. Yeah, I would absolutely do it again. And they assured me after it was over, they said, you will be asked back again.
Oh, right.
So
That's great.
that was very nice. Well, thank you again so much for
Thank
allowing me to share.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. An experience of a lifetime. I think they're going to invite Governor Elliott and I to sing a duet up there.
Hey, that sounds good.
Or carry a chair. Have to get our union going, that's right. So, on the agenda, I've got consideration of academic proposals. Have we already covered those?
Yes.
Okay. So, that's all right. That's all right. Okay, so that brings us to the election of the board officers for the coming fiscal year. So I think I'll open the floor for nominations for chairman of the board.
I would nominate Phil Gibson.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second for me.
Make a motion, nomination cease.
So.
See the train coming?
Yep. So, how am I supposed to handle that? We have two motions on the floor.
Oh, are there two?
Mhm.
Yeah, there are.
Approve them both.
Approve them both?
Yeah.
Okay, a motion on the floor, two motions on the floor, you know what they are. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried, thank you. And thank you for your confidence.
Thank you for your leadership.
And now, open the floor for nominations for vice chair of the board. I'll nominate Governor Herschel.
I'll second.
Motion second. You want to do that other thing you did?
I'll make the motion that nomination cease.
And I'll second.
Motion and second. We have two motions on the floor. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion. Anybody? Motion carried. All right, now, and thank you as well for agreeing to serve as vice chair. Now for treasurer. We have a motion for treasurer.
I'd make a motion to nominate Ms. Linda Ice.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. And for secretary.
I would nominate Ms. Laura Boyd.
I'll second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. That's done. All right. Governor Herschel, the Personnel and Compensation Committee.
Yes, the full Personnel and Compensation Committee met, all members present on May 23rd. They discussed personnel matters and therefore pursuant to the applicable laws, the full meeting of that report and the committee's recommendation will be presented to the full board at the closed session immediately following this meeting.
Thank you. All right, so we've already covered Carnegie Hall. I'll draw your attention to the future meeting dates. Next one is in September on the 19th. Is there any other new business to be brought before the board? Okay, hearing none. We have on our agenda to meet in closed session, and forgive me for reading this into the record. We'll meet for the purposes outlined below, and that is RSMO 610.021 subsection 3 relating to the hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting of particular employees by a public governmental body when personal information about the employee is discussed or recorded, and will meet regarding RSMO 610.021 subsection 21, records that identify the configuration of components or the operation of a computer system, computer network, or telecommunications network, and would allow unauthorized access to or unlawful disruption of computer system, computer network, or telecommunications network of a public governmental body. Do I have a motion to proceed to executive session? Motion by Governor Elliott. Do I have a second? Second by Governor O'Flaherty. Will the secretary read the roll?
Of course, T. Mark Elliott.
Here.
Christy Flanagan. Michael Franks. Bill Gibson.
Yes.
Carlos Haley.
Yes.
Allison Dershowitz.
Yes.
Anita Plotnick.
Yes.
And Dr. Rosenberg.
We have approval for a quorum to meet in executive session, and we'll proceed now to where we're going.
Where was that number?
343.
343.
343.
I would ask that Mr. Yust join us with computer.
Okay.
Company.
So we are adjourned from open session. Thank you all.